All right, here we go. My name is Morty Freeman. I'm about to start a business for a business to make the space elevator. I know it's really big, it's a huge undertaking, and I guess what I really want out of this is me chasing a dream. This is me chasing something huge, and I really feel like I'm going to be able to do this. Now, I don't know where life is going to go. I have no idea what's going to happen next, but on the chance that I do succeed, I want this to be out there so that anyone can watch this in the future and learn from it and hopefully use it to do the same thing with their dreams. Um, I'll tell you about myself. I'll explain what the idea is and how I plan to do it. Um, and then I'll also, see where it goes. I don't know how often I'm going to do these. I don't know if I'm going to get better at producing these. I'm assuming it will get a little bit better as I go along. But for now, it's just me. I'm not going to edit this or anything. I'm just going to post it and we'll see where it goes. So, about myself, my name is Morty Friedman. Like I said, I grew up in an ultra Orthodox Jewish home. Didn't really have access to the internet or anything like that, but I had great education, I had great parents, great loving family. Um, and that's that very supportive family. Then at 18, I moved out to start my own life. I have ambitions, I had dreams. I started working at a chicken restaurant for a couple of years, became a manager there, and I left that and went to real estate management, which is what I'm currently doing, while also building Ethereum. Officially today, I've incorporated, so that's why I'm doing this. And I guess it feels like the beginning, even though I have been working on this for a while. But yeah, because it becomes an official company now, this is really the start of something huge, hopefully. Um, Again, if I fail to, this could be out there and this should tell people what not to do. So at the end of the day, I feel like there's no loss for making something like this, even for the one person who may find this, 50 years from now. But basically, back to on topic, Ethereum essentially is a elevator to space. An elevator today is a simplified just a tether up to space. Um, I can explain it all, and I will. Let me actually show you my pitch deck that I'm using. Now, I know this is a wild dream, so this is, just take with a grain of salt. It's a plan, it's a long-term plan. It's not something I expect to happen tomorrow. But like I said, if this whole thing does happen, this will be a record of it beginning, and we can really tone it down and do stuff like this with intention in the future. So all that will help. Now, let me share the screen. Uh, okay, so you see this now. I don't know if you see me anymore, but hopefully you hear me. I'm going to go through the pitch deck pretty quickly though, just so you can, again, get a sight of it, but really, I'm so Theria, Highway to the Stars. Um, this is just the agenda today, right? We have the mission, the problem, our solution, the expanding space industry, market opportunity, then the business model, the team, and the competitive landscape that we have, the technology we need, and the technology we're going to have, and then the financials and risk mitigation. So now, Etheria essentially is on a mission to transform space transport to a reliable, cost-effective, and eco-friendly highway to the stars by building a continuous bridge to space, which will replace the inefficiencies of traditional rockets and enable humanity's next great era of exploration. So essentially, the space transport system right now doesn't really make any sense. Rocket launches cost over $2,000 per kilogram to low Earth orbit. That's just to get a rocket up to orbit. Go further, it's even more money. Now, even if the cost goes down, which it is going down, they're still super inefficient, right? Only 2 to 5% of a rocket that you have at liftoff actually makes it to orbit. And that creates, right, a very substantial inefficiency. And obviously, resource-wise, we do understand that that's not a long-term solution. Rockets are unreliable too. They do require very, very specific launch windows, and then weather has a big impact on a rocket, which then affects those small launch windows. So you're really talking about an unreliable, it's not consistent way to go to space. And the rockets do have a very big environmental impact with whatever kind of gas you're using. We're still releasing a bunch of it in the air, in the ozone layer and upper atmosphere. So really not profitable here in this graph. You can easily see what percent of the rocket actually makes it to low Earth orbit. And then the light blue is what makes it beyond low Earth orbit. So that would on Saturn V made it to the moon, which was very well. Starship is supposed to be really efficient. Again, this is the predictions for a fully functional Starship, which isn't currently active at the time of making this. And then this is the Falcon Heavy, but again, that's just you can just see how much of it is really, again, this is not just fuel, this is also including rocket components. So that does come back and is reused. So don't, don't take this fully. But yeah, most of this, about 70% of this is just fuel. So now the solution is a space elevator, right? A revolutionary approach to an access to space. Now, essentially, we can engineer anything, and there are certain things that can't be engineered further. Say like a paperclip, right? That's a common example, but the reality is there are certain things that won't be able to be engineered. Now, the space elevator is kind of that with access to space. Rockets always will require a bunch of components. With anything in any path, the shortest possible route to go somewhere is a direct line, is a straight line. So when it comes to space, the shortest, easiest way to go to space would be to have some kind of connection. Essentially, we're going from having boats and boating across the ocean to having bridges and really being able to have consistent, constant transport back and forth. It's cost effective, right? So they significantly reduce the cost, and then everything goes down for accessing space. They're efficient. So 100% of the payload that you want on the elevator makes it to space. So essentially not wasting any rocket fuel or anything. You're not losing anything in the process. So it's a net zero. It's reliable, right? Space elevator is a consistent route. Like I said, doesn't matter. There's no weather. It takes you to a specific location in space versus taking you to an orbit, which you then have to match up with whatever you're trying to connect to. So they're super reliable and to something that we don't need to wait for launch windows for because you'll always be in that location relative to other stuff in space. And again, that's further. And then obviously space elevators are also eco-friendly. Of course, they are going to be in the atmosphere, and of course, that will have some kind of environmental impact, which we will have to do full research on. But essentially, they're always going to be better than having a bunch of gases being released on a regular basis and at the rates that we would need to be doing it to do anything major in space. Now, the expanding space industry is entering an era of unprecedented growth, right? It's currently worth around $570 billion, and it's projected to hit 1.8 trillion by 2035, which is in 10 years from now. This surge is being driven by a demand for satellite deployment and then space tourism, mining, and government exploration all really, really starting to pick up. So Ethereum is creating the infrastructure to let us do this and let us build these big projects at a scalable, cost-effective, and then reliable way. This can also be scaled to anything else in space. So this is really a development for humanity's future, much, much longer than just our survival on Earth. But that may be too grand for now. So as space kind of grows, right, the need to transport material is going to keep growing exponentially. That's just how it works, right? When you want to get something somewhere, you always need the infrastructure to get it there. So the more things you need to bring somewhere, the more infrastructure you need to get the thing there. So any future missions, we know we're going to be going to the moon very soon. We're going to Mars. So we need something scalable, and currently we kind of have a bottleneck, right? There's a lot of times where companies are waiting for launches. There aren't enough launches for as many things that need to get sent up to space or enough reliable launches, and that's really where we are stuck. So now that's going to hopefully fix up and match back up, but we're still going to need even more as it picks up, as space picks up for extraplanetary stuff. So in terms of satellites, that'll kind of match up with rockets, but that's kind of where it limits itself out. So again, these are predictions for the projected annual mass. That's the annual mass. So this is the amount that's going to be sent every single year up to space in each of these industries. In terms of satellites, you can see how much it's going up. Obviously, this is 10x, so it's not 600 billion, or 6 billion million tons, right? Million tons, I believe so. Yeah. And then here we have the lunar terrorism mining, but here. So yeah, exactly, million tons. Yeah, yeah. So this is just, yeah, metric tons. I'm sorry, not million tons, metric tons. Okay, and we have 200 metric tons predicted for mining. And again, mining will be a lot less out, a lot more coming back, or not even coming back. And that's kind of, the bigger picture is mining will probably go to a point where we will be mining space and manufacturing and producing material in space without having to bring it back. Now, Ethereum's business model is based on a phased approach, right? So that we can maximize near-term opportunities, gain value, gain credibility, and then build the foundation for the long-term scalability and the final production of space elevators. So we're going to start off, right, with the material sales. So Ethereum is basically built to generate revenue at every stage of its development. During phase one, we have the initial R&D and advanced materials sales. That's kind of where we're starting today. In this phase, Ethereum is going to focus on developing foundational technologies such as graphene for the tethers, and then other systems and needs for the space elevator. And the early revenue will come from the sale of graphene. Essentially, we're going to function as a graphene advancement company with a side project of the space elevator to invest into future development on certain, the space elevator technologies. Now, phase two is going to be a test elevator and add revenue streams. It's going to be our first big test. That is going to be happening simultaneously with this, but that's the much more expensive one. So that's kind of may have to wait a little bit longer to actually happen. But this is where we're testing tethers in space. We're going to be sending some kind of test. There's a few concepts right now, whether we launch mini satellites with a spinning tether in space, or we use an elevator on either the moon or an asteroid for mining. We can also use it to clean up space junk. There's a lot of potential opportunities. It's really which ones end up falling in place over the next few years with the next few connections, and then which one will end up happening. But again, essentially that's going to be proving the use of a tether, proving the use of releasing a tether in space. It'll help us test many, many things that will be needed for our construction of the actual space elevator. And we'll really test everything, right? So it'll really do everything on a small scale and show us what we're capable of before we go and start fundraising for the really, really big project. And that's essentially, the actual construction of the first space elevator. And that's in phase three. So at that point, we shift the entire company to get funded for this and everything. We will shift from producing graphene for sales and entirely focus on producing space elevator. Again, that's the plan now. Stuff can change, but this is where we really begin producing that. It's going to be a net loss for a few years. That's when we maybe restructure. Maybe we go public at this point, but either way, that's when we actually build the space elevator. It'll be a long construction project for a good few years. The moment that's done though, and during that time, we're going to be constructing and getting the second elevator ready, which will get sent up immediately. Once that goes up, we begin revenue. That's full-time revenue on the first elevator while simultaneously constructing the second elevator. And again, that's kind of in phase four, where we just end up scaling up, building multiple elevators and going beyond, beyond Earth. So that's the phase approach. That's each step, each one lasting a few years. Just go quickly over the amount of time I expect it to take. Initial R&D should be around 5 years. Phase two should take about 10 years overall, but including some of the time of the R&D. So about 10 years from now. Construction of the first scale elevator will take another 10, 15 years. So we're talking 20, 30 years total. for this part and then scaling. And again, I don't know, we don't know what kind of breakthroughs we're going to have, or we don't know what kind of struggles we're going to have, but it's going to happen, and the time frame, will matter. Now, Ethereum, we need exceptional talent across many different areas to drive this. We have a business developer that's going to lead the marketing. That's me at this point. We have finance manager, handle the budgeting, financials. We have legal and regulatory experts, right? Because we're going to have a lot of legal compliance we need to get figured out. An aerospace engineer, aerospace engineering, for designing regulated systems and all those technologies. Material scientists, again, for the material, graphene, plus any other material that needs to be created or manufactured for this. And then the operations specialist, right, managing the actual operations day to day, building this company and giving us what we need to run. In theory, also very, very heavily is going to rely on a network of experienced advisors and people in the industry. One of the things I always say is a smart person, or anyone who's successful or tries to be at least, knows what you don't know. And as much as you know stuff, you have to know what you don't know and know where to go for help and ask for that. And that's exactly what we're doing. Um, Knowledge and experience are two different things. Knowledge is something you can acquire, you can learn, you can work hard for. But experience is something that does require a lot of time, and something that, you have to build. And with people that you can build experience quicker, basically by going to people who have got the experience and letting them teach you, from their experience. So very heavily relying on that. I do understand also this is my first big project. Now, the competitive landscape in the space industry, is evolving, but all current technologies still fall very short of the space elevator. Obviously, there are advantages to everything. Space elevators won't be replacing rockets, but they will be working together with rockets. Space elevators, one of the hard things about it is it does take a while to get up to space. It's going to take about a week to get all the way up. So that's a massive undertaking and not something people really would want to do, at least in the early days. Or we'll see. You never know. But initially, we're just going to be sending goods, to be sending mats up to space, and people will still be going on rockets. So Elon Musk still need those starships to get going. Um, that's kind of one of the huge, I guess, differences. Otherwise, the space elevators kind of, ace everything else in reliability and, environmental impact and, the cost to go to space is entirely renewable, so there's no issues with that. And then, so we do have some mega right now. There is the technology maturity though, which does need to improve. Obviously, space elevators is advanced, but again, kind of you see what this page is next. The technology, right? So the core or technology, these are things, main big things we need to advance is graphene for the tether. We need to figure out these zero emission climbers, which are really complex. We need advanced safety systems because obviously we're going to space. The apex anchor is you need to figure out that's going to deal with the mitigation for, space debris and anything like that. Also, other things that we have scalable designs. We need to make sure we're scalable so that we can do this in the future, and this can be humanity's, thing where we go to a planet, we can actually create a way off of it. Now the financials in the seed round, we're looking for $21 million for research and development, prototyping, and then beginning of the team expansions. Series A will, and this is, hypothetical right now, like I said, it really depends what we end up finalizing on in terms of that second project, for the second phase. But it would be, once we figure out the machines and everything in the, seed round, we're going to go to $100 million, for the scaling and then building of the first sample. Yeah. And then future rounds or an IPO will be later on, and that'll be the full space elevator, which will likely come from government money. But again, that's all current idea. We have the financial revenues, right? So each, stage is designed to generate revenue. Phase one, we're like I said earlier, we're dealing as an advanced material production. Obviously, our expenses are very much in the R&D. But we do plan to really start being profitable around year 5, 6, because of the high cost for R&D. Now, one of the main mitigation plans on that would also be to to back out of some of the R&D and slow that production down. Again, all negotiable. This is still early stage, but this is really the plan. Now, phase two, whether we do a lunar elevator, asteroid miner, or satellite deorbiting, or something else, satellite sending, any of these stuff will happen here. That'll be revenue from that, from both the research that we get out of that, and then that can actually, right, in any of these stuff will actually generate revenue on its own. Now, phase three will be our full operations. That's where we go full. We're estimated to generate around $20 billion a year. That sounds retarded right now, coming from someone with nothing, but really, like we'll see, right? Who knows? Not who knows, I know, but yeah, okay. Risk and mitigation, we have the risk, technical feasibility, you have regulatory and legal, market adoption, public perception, funding and financial and operational. Again, you can read these, it's just the basic risks and mitigations. Um, it's just a constant thing. Now, Ethereum is positioning itself to lead the future of space transport. We're inviting investors and really anyone who's interested in this or want to hear more, reach out to me. We're building the future. So thank you for listening. That's my information, and that's that. Next. Now, basically, that was that. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and we will get back to this. So I just want to keep this around a half hour long. I hope to do this maybe every day. Maybe not, it really depends. I guess it's good to keep kind of dialogue day by day. So if I can, maybe I'll do this every day. Just a quick half hour, just sit down in front of the camera, say what I've done today. And walk you through the process, I don't know what's gonna happen with this. I really believe in it. I really, really do. I know it's a thing that needs to eventually happen. And like I said, we're getting to a point where it's gonna become harder. Um, the the thing is humans don't need to advance to space, and that's kind of where it's hard to talk to people, is because the truth is space is kind of a catalyst type thing. Um, it's not needed, but once you have it, it's worth so much that it doesn't make sense. So it's kind of like actually today, specifically today, Trump was, or yesterday actually, he was speaking about TikTok and offering it up and saying that without the US's permission, it doesn't have any value. But with the US permission, it's $1 trillion company. So that's kind of thing with space. Without human advancement into space, without getting people and enough infrastructure up there, it's worthless. There's so much value that we see in space, but we can't get to it. It's not reachable right now. But as soon as we build that infrastructure, as soon as space becomes something that's just part of humanity's infrastructure, human wealth will grow tremendously. There's so much wealth out there, and I think that's one of the big reasons I think this is something I really really want to chase is it really has space in general really has the potential to take humans out of this whole disparity thing. So I'm not saying there's never going to be a wealth or a lower class. There will always be people that are more successful than other people, but the first step I see is why are there people that are still homeless and why are there people that don't have food? Why are the basics not the basics? Like why doesn't everyone have the basics? And a big reason for that is there's just not enough global wealth. You see in certain countries where there is higher global wealth, higher GDP, right? So let's say the US, the lowest, right, have the basics. And then you go to some other places where it just doesn't even exist. So that's an issue with global wealth. I don't really feel like that's an issue that we can fix with space. Now, space is huge, and that's a very big, crazy thing. So it becomes why specifically space elevator, and we can go on to that another day. Or I'll talk about it a little bit now, but I'll jump on to, again, I'm going to keep doing this. So I'm thinking about space access. Space elevators, it really solidifies humanity's future into space. We need dual access. We need more access. We need a consistent access. And we need something that is environmentally safe. we messed up with cars, and I think that's something that we can really use here, is we just developed something that we didn't really think about the consequences for. And it did its job, it had its time, and now we're realizing that and making a conscious effort to change it. Same as with power, same as with certain things that we've developed. So I think with space, we're developing something in slightly the wrong direction with rockets. I know we're gonna make it better and better, but it's still not efficient. Um, yes, engines will get better, and yes, you never know. You know what? I could be wrong. But the way I see it right now is there is another path, and it's not being researched enough, and it's not being invested into enough. So this is really that direction that we're taking. Yeah, so what I established today, the company that I created is called Etheria Graphene LLC. It's an LLC to start off. We are going to be producing and growing graphene. I have some production methods that I'd like to get tested. We'll go into those stuff too over time. But essentially, that's really what we're doing. We're gonna apply for grants, try to figure out how to get funded to really develop this, create the machines to do this, and then either partner or go on to producing it ourselves, and move on to the next step. So that's the end of this initial video. I'm just gonna post it like this. Honestly, I'm not gonna watch it until it's out. So, this like I said, I'm making this right now really to just help anyone who might be wanting to start a business, might be wanting to do something hard, and it's really just do it, and then you never know. So I'm gonna cut it off. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you at the next one.